Okay, team. Today, last time when we met, we talked about the community essay, and that was fairly useful for the students. Many of them asked questions about it. On the same lines, this time we'll talk about the questions around why a particular school and why a particular major. So the three questions in general which have been important have been why you want to come to a school, why a specific major at that school, and community. So community was addressed last week. What I wanted to take some time today was to understand from you how has the why, like when we did personal essay, we tried to do things on the order of making the admissions feel like, Tosca, those were your words, and I always steal your words on this, which was, I want them to care about me. I want somebody to feel like I got you, kind of thing. But when you look at a why school essay, thoughts around what they should not be doing and what they should be doing. And I can start with why school, especially the things that irritate me most when people write like, because you are based in Boston and I love Boston. Or I'll see questions, something to the effect of, you are the best when it comes to chemistry, or they pick up from the Fisk guide. I read your values and they really line up with who I am as a person. So those make me cringe. But anything that comes up high level, what you want them to think about, we can go around the table. Whoever wants to go first can raise the hands and can go. We can get started.
I can go first. This is something that I noticed with a couple of students, and I would say it's a pretty big no-no from my side is like when you're applying to like a pretty good school like T20, T30, I feel like people tend to write like top school or like elite school in their essays. And like I know that it sounds like it's a compliment school, but really I feel like it makes it sound like you're chasing privilege more than like the actual resources in a school. And while that may not be true, you don't want to give that impression off to the admissions reader. So I'll always say like choose another word that is more complimentary, like on their actual merits. So you can say you're a very, you can say outstanding or something very basic, but just don't say top or elite. I would just put that as like a baseline. And then when you are including like things like positive about the school, there's only so much you can write about. So try to pick things that are unique. Like, yes, they have a great chemistry program. There's probably like 15 to 20 schools that have a great chemistry program. Do they have like a specific where undergraduates can go and research at? Is there like a specific professor that does like a really great project that you're interested in? And even if those might be old professors or like something that you don't have a lot of insight into from your research, go ahead and mention it because that'll help you stand apart. Because like these essays don't really care if you like how much you really want to go to school. Like everybody who's applying wants to go. It's more about just proving how much, research you've done into the institution.
Very well said. I mean, research can take all kinds of directions. I mean, a particular subject, a particular quirky fact about that school that you said about libraries. I know Shreya wrote a lot of these things in her Wellesley application. I've seen some students even write about when they visited a school, they'll actually mention it that this was the person I met, and something interesting they told me which stayed back. But I hear you. But go ahead. Anybody else with a perspective?
Something that immediately comes to mind for me is this is the kind of essay like why this school that is going to be a time investment because if someone is enthusiastic enough to actually attend the school, which is something admissions committees are looking for, they're going to have taken the time to spend a few hours, which I know sounds crazy, but really getting to know that school. Like when I was applying to Georgetown, for example, and I went to my interviewer was really happy because I was able to talk about chicken tender Thursdays. Like I knew about the random stuff happening on campus because I was really excited about that school. And I'd actually given some thought to what it would be like to live there. So I think just that level of, I don't know if it's so much detail, but like their enthusiasm is coming through and it's sincere that they want to go. And it's not just a throwaway, like what's really important to me that I go to a top 30 school. It's like, no, it's specifically this school that I want to go to because I connect with it. So there's got to be some sincerity there.
Sometimes though the question can be fairly loaded because if you look at Boston University, It just says why BU, and that's it. That's the only supplement you have. So now you're expected to throw in community and major and the bias, everything in that little 250 words. So it can become more challenging. Go ahead, one of you. Ariana, go ahead.
Ariana, go ahead.
Okay. To go off of what Tosca was saying, yeah, I think overall I've seen a lot of like lack of investment and just student being very, very general, where clearly they didn't do research on the school. So just getting very specific, like actually taking the time to find specific classes, specific professors, specific clubs, internships, study opportunities, what actually interests you about the school in day-to-day life, and that you don't have to mention the frats, but definitely not that, but other things like, yeah. So just showing interest, so important.
Connecting those dots in terms of showing the interest and talking about what Shruti was saying, the way I see this particular part of your school, this is how I think I can add to your, I can build on this for you. It's not just stating the facts, because stating the facts can only take you so far. You're good at this, you're good at this, you're good at this. I am specifically bringing this up because this means to me because of what I have done. Or I believe I want to, when I come to your school, I want to do this thing even more. Or I celebrate this part with you or something like that. Anu?
Okay. I get excited about supplementals because the groundwork is on the kid, right? You want to go to BU, you need to know the details of BU and why you want to go to BU. So don't come to me with, the brochure parroting. BU has a ratio of 13:1, which accelerates you into serious programs. I can read the website and the brochure. Tell me how you fit in there. So it has to be a love story. That's what I tell them. Why them is actually why they as you. So declare a goal of, I envision this as my career or future, and a thorough education in this field through your college, giving me these specifics are the reason I'm applying to you. And I ask for 5 or 6. That's why I tell them, do the groundwork and show it to me. Specifics in the classroom. For example, if computer science and criminology and cybersecurity is my interest, show the courses which are not intro to computer, which any remote college would have, but intro, like cyber safety, course 401 with a particular professor, and research work with a particular professor that is worded in a way such that, like, I'm coming there to investigate zebrafish multiplication and mitotic division. And I see that as a meaningful build on from my current research with Professor so-and-so at Berkeley or something. That shows you are grounded in something and you see them as a vision to get there. Like, no goofing around, say that his ideals are same as my ideals, as somebody else's ideals. Nope. Then internship, junior year abroad, research facilities, multidisciplinary majors that you can do, list them in the classroom. Then bring in academic clubs. That shows you're going an extra step further to know their details and bring in how you want to grow there with that. Finally, when you've stopped geeking out and nerding out, pick 1 or 2 non-academic clubs. Hey, I want to be in the Bhangra Jalwa dance team to continue my dance interest, or the acting team with the name. That shows you want to grow further. And this also depends on, if they don't ask why this major and why this community, then slip 2 sentences there, showing how you want to be a part of the community. Claim again once more that this is the way that you see naturally stepping up fully geared to take on the future career that you're dreaming about, and they are the way to get there. So it's like a full 360, checking every check mark that whatever I described has. And that's my basic ask. And if it's 100 words for Purdue, you can put 4 of those there. If it is 300 words for BU, you can put more. Instead of saying, I came to your campus and admired the tulips and the butterflies flying there. No. So I get really excited about this, and my requirements are always like, is this checked? Is this checked?
Tosca, you had mentioned once, and I still remember your words on this, that most good schools have figured out they've already arrived. And they are looking, those were your words, I still remember that. they're looking to find students who want to go from step A to step B, and they are making a decision saying, okay, am I the right place? Can I help this student go there? They are not, these schools, the elite schools are not really dying for you. They're just trying to, they've already secured a place for themselves, and they want to hear from you. And in that context, if they want to hear where you want to go, for lack of better words, cheesy words like, you're great, you're based in the heart of the Boston. How do you think of, just within that, again, I'm putting you on the spot on this, but I'm thinking you had brought this up earlier to me once, so maybe any thoughts, closing thoughts on that?
Well, a big thought that I have is, they know. That's why their endowment is billions of dollars. And they want to keep it that way. So you kind of need to show that you're going to be a quality member of that community. Are you going to be an active donor and alumni? Do you vibe with the people who are there? I mean, I remember saying in one of my interviews, something I loved about the school was that everyone I met from that school I thought was hilarious. And I had a good time just spending time with them. And obviously, I didn't say it too negatively, but that doesn't apply to all places that I've gone. The kid needs to put themselves in the context of that place in a way that makes sense. But also something that they're looking for is if they're building a community and that's what makes the place special, then it can't just be about what you're going to get out of it. So it can't just be like, oh, I'm going from point A to point B. That's important. That's like half of it. The other point is going to be, how am I going to give back to this community? What do I actually have to offer other people? So it could be, that could kind of be accomplished. Like, oh, I see myself joining this organization because this is my, and they'll kind of imagine who you're going to be on that campus.
Well said. Well said. Great. Now, just to tag on, can we talk about the Y major? Typically, Y major tends to get confused or interlinked with Y school. But maybe, what about a Y major? Is it more about, I've dreamed of being a doctor for the last 20 years and now I want to be one because I want to save lives? Or is it about, I've had a fascination in this thing, and in college I want to do this? Go ahead. Anybody? Tosca?
I immediately have something that I really want to bring up, because I noticed this even with some of the summer programs. I feel like whatever you're saying you're interested in studying, it needs to be something that student has thought critically about. So a perfect example of this would be AI. So many kids were telling me they wanted to study AI. And I would say, oh, well, how do you feel about the safety concerns that people are bringing up? Or how do you feel about regulation? Or what do you think this means for artists? What do you think about copyright infringement? Like, really trying to engage with them in terms of, what does this mean? How is this net good? How is this net positive? And a lot of the students didn't have anything to say on that front. All they were thinking is, oh, this is a powerful tool. I can make a cool company. I'll make a lot of money someday, and I can be a cool startup owner. For me, that wasn't enough. I'm more impressed when someone can speak eloquently about the pros and the cons of their field. So, if someone says, I love economics, I have always grappled with, what kind of what responsibility do we have policy-wise to address issues issues created by the market, or I am curious about how we can deal with negative externalities caused by carbon emissions, and how can we hold companies accountable? And, I feel like I want to be part of this new movement in the field that is trying to harness the benefits of economics while also addressing some of the things that have historically been overlooked. Way better than I love this professor and this professor. They're so cool. I don't know. It just, for me, it shows the students ready to engage.
It also showcases intellectual curiosity. It shows some kind of a philosophical mind and it's almost in some ways it's a given, right? If you're already talking about the merits and demerits of AI and how it works, you don't have to prove your stars in terms of, do I even know what it is about, right? But yeah, I hear you. Anybody else? Go ahead, Shruti.
Yeah, so obviously these are hard essays because like there's multiple people applying for the same majors and you don't want to copy them. But I feel like specifically for people who are applying pre-med and even like people doing AI essays, like they come off very much the same. Like I know at least for me that it's like a trope to say like I want to help people, and it's like okay, but how would you do that? Anybody can help somebody. You know, being a doctor, let's say you're a dermatologist, you're not really doing life-saving work in most cases. But you need to prove like exactly how you'd be helping people in like a different way. Maybe you want to be like an EMT member on campus. That's like a real way you could help out students. You want to use your background, you know, not just to kind of stay in like a comfortable area, but really put yourself on the front line. And obviously that doesn't align too much with like the Y major aspect, but try to make a connection between like the theoretical of like doing good work and helping people, but like how you will actually enact that through this major. Maybe your biology classes on, you know, certain genetic conditions and drugs, or psychology classes on that will really help you in the real world of this job you want to do because you'll be well versed on it. Always trying to think about like the real world impact, because I feel like at a certain extent, like you can write about the subject for hours on end, but like there's just trying to boil it down to what you're saying, which is like what you're going to be able to do with this major and why, you know, you should be admitted over the other 10 people that are applying for the same thing.
Do we see the need for talking about specific cases of how this changed how you were thinking, or, you know, those kind of philosophical phantom statements? I was in an accident and nobody came to save me, and I wanted to.
I think those are interesting if you have an interesting point of view. And maybe I'm just jaded, but for pre-med, I see those all the time. Like, oh, somebody in my family was sick, and I don't want to let people get sick again. And like that's true for almost nobody wants to see anybody get sick, but most people don't try to become doctors. So like, how did that specifically motivate you? Because there's probably something else. Maybe you are so driven and like you spent all your time on this, and that's why you decided to take this path. You know, maybe you know you yourself have like an extreme condition, and you want to help people from further getting that disease or something. But I feel like just try not to be very basic. Like something that like would fit well in a movie that's like so cinematic and perfect is probably not going to be a great point for your essay.
Got it. Oscar?
I think that's perfect what you're bringing up. So an idea that I have is more like a value alignment. So for example, I would probably be a better dermatologist than an EMT. Because I know like something that I value is how someone's confidence is built when they feel good about how they look, right? And I'm not really so into like, I'm not an emergency responder type of person, as in I'm not sure that I'm that kind of proactive, but I definitely would connect with patients who are just upset about, wanting to be presentable, right? So I think being able to bring it back to some core value that isn't just helping people, because if the helping people is taken for granted, I think everyone in some way wants to help people. So that's, so maybe just like trying to get under it a little bit more.
Got it. Anu?
So why this major? I always say it's a half and half story. The first half, if you want to think about it as how and what you have done to, you're declaring this passion for the subject, not all the subjects, right? Like this particular thing. So just give me a glimpse of how that would show me why you're mad and aspire to do this subject, right? Like, so give me a time point, like short movie, mini movie for 2 minutes, right? How your interest came in middle school and how you worked on it and followed this passion, when you generously use the word passion about this subject, right? Build it up and substantiate it to show how you've grown, and give me a reason for why you're mad about it that aligns, as Tuska and Shruti said, that shows your value, not just, Miss World answer, I want to feed the children in Africa or save the humanity, but more reliable connect. Like, I know you're not goofing around falsely, but I know you're genuinely wanting to do that. Like, show me. If it's cybersecurity, put that. One of my students wrote, like, my identity was stolen and I got hate messages and cyberbullying, and I want to make sure that this doesn't happen to others. And this is my sincere thing that changed the roadmap for me. And some kid was writing, I wasn't sure if I wanted psychology or environmental sciences, but then I realized I have to do computer. There goes your chances of getting selected. Totally. When you take 100 words for Purdue and 3 sentences have gone in saying she has been wavering in her mind and finally she's settling for computer sciences. Who would take you? This is a scoring area. Divide it into half for you, burning your passion and showing it, and another half for application as in relevance and where you want to be helping people in details, not just randomly saying, I want to save mankind. So that's my two.
Go ahead, Taska.
Something I would definitely encourage students is, I mean, depending on the school, but I think in the case of most schools, applying to get in is not a commitment to a certain major. So being like, you don't need to be like giving them the whole picture of anything you could possibly study, but you need a believable version of what you could do. So just try to commit to a narrative that, like, full send one of them instead of saying like, oh, I might do this or I might do this. Because then it sounds like they're second guessing themselves, and it's just like it introduces too much uncertainty, I think, and then it gets distracting, and then it doesn't need, it just needs to be plausible.
So you're saying don't hedge your bets, just stay with whatever you're thinking. Okay, Shruti, go ahead.
Right.
I just wanted to add one last thing. I know that a lot of students want to, like, obviously, if you're interested in a subject, you probably have a lot of like activities related to it, but don't try to repeat information that's in other part of your essays. Like, if you've already spoken about being a curious person in your personal statement, it's probably not best to bring that up again. Maybe you can put a different spin on it. Like, you're curious in a different aspect. Maybe you are, working on being more proactive and like listening in conversations and not just asking questions all the time. Some other angle where it's not super repetitive, because I don't know, because for me, I'm like, you only have so much space to show who you are. You want to put yourself into a box. And while that can be good in some ways to convey who you are, it can be limited when you're put up against students who will have like maybe there's some kid who like actually solved cancer. Like, you can only do so much and show that you're like a real genuine person who might not know everything about the subject, but what you do know, you know really well. So just try to convey those thoughts pretty clearly. Like, if you need to stick to like one theme throughout per supplemental, that's totally okay. Usually I recommend that for students, so that way you're not like so jumbled trying to show all these different sides of yourself. And you have like one through line. So by the time they read your essay, they like know exactly who you are and who you will be on their campus.
In some ways, it builds on the empathy factor, right? I mean, how much do you want the poor AdCom person to read and try to remember? If you start throwing 5 things at him, it's almost inhumane. Like, be empathetic towards even the person who's reading it, because they are under a lot of pressure. They are stressed about making the bad call. So help them, not mess it up. So I hear you. Anybody else? Closing thoughts?
Yeah, I think that's a perfect place to leave it, which is the best thing that a student can do is make the officer feel like they're hearing from a real person and developing that personality in their mind. Because I can think about any one of the 3 of you, for example, and I'm not thinking of like maybe specific things about you, but I definitely have an impression of what you're like and what you care about. And that I can remember specific conversations we've had. And I think that's like maybe the case with essays too. Like, I don't need to remember the specific essay, but I do need to remember what I understand. So
Great. Wonderful. Great. Thank you, everybody. Really appreciate the details, and we'll see you guys soon. Bye now.